welcome back to Law&Crime Daily, everybody. So we are bringing you a new trial out of Illinois where the defendant is representing himself. 10 men, 2 women. They were selected to be on the jury in Springfield, Illinois, to decide whether Bradley Yohn is guilty or not. He's charged with home invasion, aggravated kidnapping, vehicular hijacking, burglary, and sexual assault from a 2021 incident. Police say that Yohn and accomplice Karen Blackledge used a stolen car to carjack, sexually assault, and rob 77-year-old Tina Schmitt. She died a month after the incident, but prosecutors aren't pursuing murder charges in this case. Blackledge already entered a guilty plea last year to charges of home invasion and aggravated criminal sexual assault, with the rest of the charges being dropped. She's currently serving 40 years in prison. Yohn took a different route, choosing to represent himself in his own case, and that case started on Tuesday, so let's hear what the prosecution and Yohn himself told the jury during opening statements.
The defendant forced his way into Tina's car. Tina thought it was about taking money and jewelry from her. She thought the defendant was going to kill her, so she told her she had more stuff back at her house. The defendant was not just satisfied with money or jewelry. The defendant wanted more from this 77-year-old great-grandmother. While the defendant was doing all of these things, robbing her, assaulting her, his accomplice, the woman that was with him, was holding a knife and threatening Tina's life. After the defendant finished robbing Tina of her dignity, he fled. He went across the river to Hannibal and he played video poker. For the weeks after her assault, Tina was in pain, both emotional pain and physical pain. She never had the opportunity to recover because on December 12th, 2021, Tina's heart broke.
These things do not follow the definition of logic. I will show you what coercion, manipulation, and deceit is. Persons think it is absolutely funny to be vindictive, to lie, to place forth claims, and that would be from the horse's mouth. I will prove to you reason for false testimony from some who may or may not testify throughout this adventure. I'll show you how other law enforcement think these events that are alleged to have happened are quite odd themselves, stating such in an indirect way. That is law enforcement, and I intend to prove that to you.
So, Brian, there's an old saying that the lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a client. Is that true of Mr. Yohn?
Jesse, this is not like when I tell my wife I can do the plumbing in the house and I fix a few things, and for the record, I did a pretty good job. It's very different to be an attorney for yourself. You don't understand the rules of decorum. You don't have a relationship with the prosecutor or the judge. And a defense attorney acts as a shield in the way that they can say certain things because they're not the person on trial that a client can't for themselves. So it's very difficult, and I do think the old adage does hold true that this is a bit of a foolish endeavor. Now, in the clip we sent, our producers told us, hey, I sent the most articulate portion of this guy talking, but in the rest of his opening statement, it was foolish. And I think it might be his downfall. I don't think it's gonna help him, but we'll watch. We've already seen other cases, Summer, and I think, what was the other one? Darrell Brooks.
Yeah.
Didn't work out for them.
That did not work out so well. Dina, I feel like this is a prosecutor's dream, though. Does it make it easier for them to win the case here? And based on their opening, how tight's their case?
I mean, it absolutely makes it easier because he's going to be so bad at defending himself. It's as if there is no defense. And I think their case seems pretty strong to begin with, and that's probably why he's willing to represent himself. I'm sure his defense attorney was kind of giving him realistic odds, and they weren't very good. So he was willing to kind of roll the dice, and maybe he was inspired by Darrell Brooks. Darrell Brooks kind of became a viral sensation. And if you think, hey, I'm going to get prosecuted, convicted at the end of this, maybe I'm going to go down and become viral myself. Who knows what his thinking is, but it's certainly a bad idea if you actually want to get acquitted.
Yeah, no one's talking about Darrell Brooks anymore. That 15 minutes of fame is sure up. When we come back, the life of a Texas Border Patrol agent lies in the hands of a jury as his penalty phase continues for the deaths of his mistress and son. We'll bring you the very latest from the courtroom next. finishing today's show in Laredo, Texas, where day 3 continues in the penalty phase of a former Border Patrol agent. He faces life in prison or death row for a gruesome double homicide, allegedly over child support money. Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles was convicted by a jury last week for the 2018 deaths of his mistress, Griselda Hernandez, and their 1.5-year-old son, Dominic. Prosecutors argued that Dominic was born while the defendant was having an affair, and Hernandez served him child support documents. Now, because of that, prosecutors say he stabbed Hernandez and the baby to death after meeting up with them near a park. A week of evidence is expected as part of the penalty phase. The jury will then hand down a recommendation for either the death penalty or life in prison without parole. On Tuesday, a mental health specialist from the Webb County Jail testified for the prosecution, and he talked about his mental health assessment of the defendant, which happened more than a month after his arrest. Here's his response when questioned by both sides.
So there's no psychosis?
No psychosis there.
No delusion?
No delusions.
No hallucinations?
Correct.
No anxiety?
Correct.
No sleep problems?
Correct.
No depression?
Correct.
No suicidal ideation?
That is correct. The only thing that he complained there was where it says other. Inmate denies current depressive symptoms, anxiety, auditory visual hallucinations, suicidal homicidal ideations, or death wishes. No history of suicide attempts reported. Stated has been sleeping and eating fine. He may behave appropriately during interview. No active psychotic features detected. No signs of mental decompensation were evident, and no distress noted.
From your opinion and understanding, psychosis is a continuum, right? It's a progression. Is that correct?
Correct.
There's no way for you to observe whether or not his thinking and thought processes had been affected, correct?
When I saw him, his thoughts, like it says in the report, they were coherent, logical, and organized.
You're not claiming to be a mind reader, right?
No, definitely not.
You took 6 undergraduate classes in psychology, is that correct?
Correct.
I just want to make sure, right, you're not giving any clinical impressions, are you?
No.
Okay, as a matter of fact, you need a license to give clinical impressions, is that correct?
Correct.
Let's back up for a second. Why is the defendant's mental health important during this penalty phase?
I mean, the mental health is basically, are you going to have compassion on this person? It's a mitigating factor. That yes, they've already proved intent. This isn't a matter of like saying that he was insane and he couldn't have committed the crime. That level of mental health. But it's, yes, he did this intentionally, but his background was such that he deserves to be in prison for life rather than killed because of it, because sometimes we talk about childhood abuse, and then in this case, whether or not mentally he had some issues. But it seems here this expert is trying to say that he didn't, but we'll see the defense probably kind of putting up their own expert, talking a little bit more, saying that he deserves the kind of compassion and mitigating factor to get life in prison. But here in Texas, as we know, it's the #1 state for executions. So whether or not the jury will be that sympathetic, we'll see.
Well, Brian, does the witness's credentials, does that have any bearing on his opinion?
Jesse, 18 hours and it is your minor in college. Hey, when someone asks me, Brian, do you speak French? I always say, un peu. I took more college credits in French than this guy did in psychology, and he's trying to give a diagnosis. I don't think it works. So to that, I can't think of any more French things to say because I only took so many credits. I don't think it holds water. Prosecutor, find someone better. Find someone who took 20 credits. I don't know, but this doesn't seem to be enough to push him past that limit in terms of a death penalty analysis, but they have plenty of other evidence that they can use.
Yeah, and we sometimes ignore the credentials of these witnesses, but they're important, and juries pay attention. Dina, Brian, thank you so much. Everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We're going to see you next time as we discuss justice in America.